Since 2014, I've always been a fan of the FNAF series by Scott Cawthon. There's been no shortage of interest, well, until Security Breach, that is, that I've lacked in a new series, new entry coming out. Every single time that there's been a new entry, I've waited patiently for new teasers, especially for FNAF 3. That was a wild adventure when Scott was originally going to do the 10 countdown teasers, but just ended up doing 10 and then just released the game anyway. And like with the Halloween trailers for FNAF 4, he planned on releasing it in October, like Halloween, but he just ended up finishing it early. He even made a comment himself about the fact that he sucks at release dates, which is funny considering the fact that this man has unironically never released anything on time. Well, at least before. Anyway, one of the things being a fan that I can say obviously I've been a fan of. Wow. One thing I can obviously say I'm a fan of being FNAF is the story. And when I heard that the novel of the time coming out, which is Silver Eyes, came out, I was super excited. But, being like young kid in elementary school, I was having an attention span problem, so I could not read that book. But I went back and read it recently, and then I read the graphic novel, The Silver Eyes, and honestly, I have some mixed feelings, at least on the graphic novel wise. The regular story is good. It feels a lot more FNAF, but the graphic novel has some problems, but not the worst thing in the world. The story of this book is definitely a tricky topic to discuss when it comes to just the overall package. Mainly looking at this from purely a comic book standpoint, it is very, very poorly paced. Not really in a sense that it like loses you, just it's kind of all over the place. There are times where, especially in the beginning of the book, the characters are gonna spend like 60 pages or something, or a good chunk of time just doing absolutely nothing other than talking, which does nothing to move the plot. But then other times, like in the end, like it will just rush it right through, and it's like this was not very well executed. Maybe it was because it was a poor transition. I'll talk about this later, but there's a lot of stuff cut out from the book, and that is kind of apparent when it seems like there's something that should have been here that's missing, clearly. But it's not only the pacing. There's maybe I can count like 3 or 4 locations in the entire book that they go. They go to the restaurant, the mall, and that's it. I guess you could say Charlie's house at the beginning, but that's like the only location that people or the story in general just goes through. So there's not really much going on when it comes to location, not much variety. The next issue that I have with this is the antagonist, which of the series should be William Afton, but here he's just called Dave, and he is boring as shit. Like, I don't really know what to say or how to explain it, but he is just cartoonishly evil to the point where it's just ridiculous. Like, he looks evil and acts evil, and it's like, no shit. Like, this was expected, and it just isn't really well put together, or at least believable. I mean, I guess you could say believable, but it's not that hard. I say it's not that hard, like I've done it myself, but it's not really compelling or interesting. More just, hey, he's a guy, and now he's evil. Cool, I guess. But the ending of this book was certainly underwhelming. He just gets knocked out, not really knocked out. I guess you could say he got killed. The spring locks activate on him, but he just gets taken to the back, and then book's over. Like the whole story's wrapped up in like 5 pages, and it's just horrible because it doesn't look like the characters really care that much, which is another key factor that I'd like to discuss. The main issue with the characters isn't that they're bad. Like, I don't think I necessarily hate or dislike any of the characters other than Dave, but the main issue is that they're very shallow or one note. I mean, other than Charlie, but every other character, the blonde girl, the redhead, they're so forgettable. and Jason, John, and Charlie are the only people that I remember from this book. Like, other than those three, every character is just either the tough guy, the clueless guy, or just the damsel in distress. So I am not given much of a reason to care. They just seem like characters there for the sake of being there to fill out the roster. But it hurts, especially with the fact that for some reason in this book, there's no inner monologues or thoughts. Like, the only thing that is given to us is either Charlie's thoughts or dialogue from other people. There's not like thoughts from other people or what other people are thinking. It's only Charlie, which is fair, but it's like a comic book, so it's kind of like everybody else is there. So kind of hard to ignore the fact that there isn't really like anybody struggling or thinking much about it. But now another issue, especially with the characters, is that they are just lucky, or at least, yeah, no, lucky is the word. They get out of situations that they should so obviously die from, but just don't because the antagonist or plot armor, where it just that nothing happens and they come out fine, which is just hard to believe. Mm, it's kind of hard to believe the whole relationship with John and Charlie. I don't like those two. Um, okay, that's not right. I like those two. I don't dislike them, but it just kind of feels like here it was kind of corny, and their relationship just seemed like it was there just to build artificial interest in the characters. Like, you can't really care for a character or person unless you're dating them, which doesn't make any sense. But yeah, nothing too strong to get attached to there. But a funny thing that I do like about this is John. He is a fucking karate master or something. Like, he is taking down these animatronics one by one. The action scenes in here are definitely interesting. Even though the art might not be the greatest, especially compared to the Marvel comics I was talking about last video, the artist definitely knows this way to show motion, or not emotion, yeah, but like motion, like hands moving or bodies moving. Like, it might not be the most dynamic, but like when someone throws a punch or someone goes flying or something in this book, it definitely is clear and conveyed, and it's easy to see and understand what is happening on the screen. Unlike some other comics that I've read where it's just like, what is happening? Point is, yeah, easy to understand, but the art, though, I have to say, is underwhelming. I don't know if that's the word. I didn't really have high expectations, but I went and read the sequel graphic novels. The art has definitely improved, so I don't know if on this book the budget or the time was just rushed or something, but the artist definitely, and it's the same artist, the art improves drastically within the other books. But one good thing that I do want to give appraisal to is the artist. I'm gonna write it down here. Like, again, I forgot to write it down. They are doing a great job at representing the animatronics. They're huge, they're accurate, and they're definitely not somebody you just want to have chilling in your room. Like, they look fucking horrifying. Nothing much to complain about there other than the fact they barely even do anything, but that's for later. One thing, though, that is gonna be discussed about is the lack of FNAF in the actual FNAF book, which is a gigantic problem. At least for me, when I hear FNAF graphic novel, I expect there to be a constant, like, reminder, or at least interest in the FNAF story, which it has here definitely, but not nearly to the extent that I thought. Like, there are flashbacks, or at least references to animatronics, but there's not really much of a FNAF feel, if that makes sense. Like, there's FNAF throughout the book, but it's not like drastic or an overwhelming like reminder that this is a FNAF book. That's like part of my issue because it just feels forced. Like, the artist, they drew the animatronics good. I'll give them that. Like I said, it just seems like they were in here. It feels forced. Not that it is forced. Like, the story like makes sense and it's fluid, but it just doesn't feel right. I'm not really sure how to explain it. But like the animatronics in this book, as I said, they look scary, but they are get punked by John so much. Like this guy is just knocking them out, and then they're there for like 5 pages, get knocked out, and then just literally leave. They just literally leave and leave the characters alone, and nothing happens. And it's just what the hell? There's weren't any dead spirits or any kids. I don't even think there was a mention of kids, or if there was, like it wasn't that important. So like a lot of stuff must have been cut out here, especially to the original book. The original novel this graphic novel is based on had 400 pages, and for some reason they trimmed it down to a measly 190, which is cutting that book in half. Which you can make the argument, oh well, maybe they just had multiple events or like multiple pages just crammed into one, which I can understand. But there's several key points. Like William Afton himself is not even named in this book. I don't remember seeing it. If there is, then I gotta go back and read it. I didn't see it. Remnant, which is the substance that is made to use the animatronics, or at least turn the souls into. No. The remnant is what the metal is made of, or at least that's what the metal is. That's what William Afton calls it. Like that's yeah. Again, I don't remember that being a thing in this book, which is I not good. It just, which mentioned previously just felt like a bunch of stuff was just cut out of this book. Just kept very bare bones and just basic and not very interesting, which is not a good thing to have for FNAF. Like, if your story is not good, then you don't really have much there. So, the original novel was good, I'll give it that, but this graphic novel is definitely a disappointment in comparison to the original. I was super psyched when I first got the graphic novel, but reading it back again just wasn't really my cup of tea, at least compared to what I remember. Out of this video, I'm likely to go back and reread the original, the other graphic novels. Yeah, go reread the other graphic novels and talk about those videos, talk about those comics. I mean, I liked it. I like this book, and I'll stick with it, at least with the rest of the series. Mainly because I love FNAF and I love Scott Cawthon and what he's done with the series. So I have faith that the rest of this will be good. I only read the Silver Eyes, so I haven't gotten much interest in the rest of the series, at least books wise. I've played the games, but that's not what this video is about. But I will definitely go and reread the rest of the graphic novels and probably discuss those, but not gonna hold my breath for now. Although, hope you enjoyed, and yeah, have a good day.